So this video ties in differentiation with our functions topic when we're going to graph the derived function. And we do this because it's possible to sketch the derivative of our function of x by looking at the features of the graph of our function of x. So the procedure is to consider the stationary points where we know that the gradient equals 0 and plot the corresponding points. So for example, if we've got a point a of f of a, which is a stationary point, then it's going to become a0 on our graph of our derived function. And then we need to consider the gradient of y equals f of x on either side of the stationary point and complete the sketch, because if there's a positive gradient, it will lie above the x-axis and a negative gradient will lie below the x-axis. So if we consider this curve, we've got a maximum turning point at A, we've got a falling point of inflection at B, we've got a minimum turning point at C, and then we've got a rising point of inflection at D. So the gradient at all of these stationary points is going to be 0. So all 4 of those points are going to lie on our x-axis at A0, B0, C0, and D0. Now, in order to figure out how we're going to connect those points together, we need to consider the gradient. So before A it's positive and after A it's negative. After B it's negative, and after C it's positive, and after D it's positive. So connecting our points, before A it's positive, between A and B it's negative, between B and C it's negative, between C and D it's positive, and after D it's positive. So we've now got the graph of our derived function. So if we want to sketch the derived function for the function shown in this graph, we need to consider our stationary points. So that's when the gradient is going to be 0. So we've got a gradient of 0 at -1, -2, at 0, 1, at 1, 2, and then a falling point of inflection at 2, -1. And we can plot these onto our graph of our derived function at -1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, and 2, 0. So we now need to consider the gradient of y equals f of x on either side of our stationary points so that we can complete our sketch, remembering that any negative gradient will be below the x-axis and a positive gradient will be above the x-axis, and then we can connect our stationary points together on our graph of our derived function to get our curve.